Deep down, we all know that civilization is doomed. The Christian right believes it's the prophesied end of days. Many indigenous people believe it's the end of our current world. Conspiracy theorists claim the government will enslave us through weather controlling technologies and EMFs. Climate scientists predict the oceans will rise from melting ice caps, civil wars and mass migration will occur due to lack of resources brought about by drought and famine, and mass extinctions will accelerate due to ecosystem collapse, eventually extinction of humankind as well. The United States Army believes the end of society will be brought about by lack of groundwater. The United Nations predicts topsoil around the world will be so depleted we won't be able to grow crops to feed people within the next 50 years. Some say nuclear war will break out, which is sure to destroy us all. Who is correct? Who knows? Maybe they all are. The main point, though, is regardless of what manner our life on this planet ceases, everyone pretty much agrees that it is bound to happen and likely to happen within our children's lifetime, if not sooner. I do have a simple 5-point plan for how we can save ourselves, but I'll get to that at the end. For now, I want to switch gears completely and talk about 5 of the least acknowledged wonders of the world. The first is kelp. That's right, kelp. The tall, thin weeds with the floating bulbs that grow in the ocean. Kelp is amazing. Did you know that kelp is an incredibly healthy supplement for humans, pets, and livestock? It is high in antioxidants and nutrients, which helps with disease and cancer suppression. It is packed with calcium, vitamins, and other essential minerals. Also, as a photosynthesizer, it pulls carbon out of the air and out of the water, helping to balance the pH of the ocean and providing habitat for fish, encouraging healthy marine ecosystems. This means more shrimp and scallops. Not only is it ridiculously healthy, it also serves as protection against extreme storms like hurricanes and typhoons because it decreases the size of waves and therefore also decreases the speed of wind. Plus, it has incredible growth rates. Kelp can grow 15 feet in just one season, making it one of the quickest growing plants on Earth. As if that weren't enough, it is also one of the best soil amendments, increasing fungal biomass and providing those same nutrients to plants. Which leads me to the second least acknowledged wonder of the world, soil. Did you know there are more organisms in one handful of healthy soil than there are people on this planet? Tiny microscopic worms called nematodes, amoeba, millions of bacteria, dozens of feet of mycorrhizal filaments, super tiny little insects, and the list goes on. And all of these organisms are alive, eating each other, excreting nutrients back into the soil, reproducing, growing, moving, living out unimaginable lives. Perhaps the most amazing of these creatures are the fungi, which, if left undisturbed, can stretch out, grow, and extend for miles, outward and downward, creating a vast three-dimensional networks of filaments that actually form symbiotic relationships to nearly every single plant on Earth. Plants can actually signal to the fungi that they need a type of nutrient, say zinc or even water. And like an electrical impulse, the fungi will transmit the message, seek out the nutrient, and bring it back to the plant. And in exchange, the plant will feed the fungi sugary exudates from its roots. Fungi are what give healthy soil that beautiful, rich brown, crumbly appearance. Those crumbles have tiny chambers in them that can house organisms and actually hold water, protected from evaporation indefinitely, and create space for plant roots to stretch down deep into the ground, allowing them to access even more nutrients and water. In fact, did you know that healthy soil can retain over 100,000 gallons of water more than unhealthy soil, that is money in the bank for farmers and ranchers. And have you ever looked at a steep hillside and wondered why it doesn't just collapse? Many times, it's the fungi that are providing the structure to keep all that matter in place. Soil is a whole other universe, a still as of yet minimally explored frontier that, if well managed, can produce all the health and vitality we need. The third least acknowledged wonder of the world is the tree. Trees talk to each other, summon predators with pheromones, feed each other even across species, and even within a single tree will house tens of thousands of organisms, from chipmunks to butterflies to birds, owls, bats, and the list goes on. They literally enchant us with the volatile organic compounds they give off, which also serves as a natural antibiotic, increasing our white blood cells while decreasing our stress hormones. On average, each tree produces 260 gallons of oxygen per year and will contain 48 pounds of carbon from the air. It is this capability that allowed trees to literally change the atmosphere in such a way that enabled humans to live on the planet. They truly are, as many indigenous claim, our ancestors, our grandparents, our guardians. The next underrated wonder of the world is the human mind. Why would I call the human mind one of the least acknowledged wonders? Because despite how amazing we are, we seem to continuously doubt our own ingenuity. All I hear is fear. We can't end capitalism. It's the best system we've ever come up with. We can't stop factory farming. How else would we feed everyone? We can't stop being a corporatocracy here in America. What would we do instead? Well, I have more faith in the human mind than that. Think about it. We just put the James Webb Telescope into space, an instrument that can see to the beginning of time. We developed atomic technology, vaccines, and cell phones. We've written achingly beautiful symphonies that tug on the heartstrings so much they bring you to tears. We constructed the pyramids in perfect alignment to the stars. We built the Chrysler Building, a shining, poetic icon of industrial magnitude. We carved rock with such precision it gives the illusion of supple skin and flexing muscles. We painted light dancing on lily pads. We drive around in cars and fly from continent to continent in giant metal birds. Truthfully, is there anything we can't do? I think not. Finally, the last underrated wonder of the world is the human heart. Oh, the depths of the human heart can run deeper than the Mariana Trench and can climb higher than the mesosphere. As Rumi, the artist of the heart, says, "Love risks everything and asks nothing." When Schindler risked his life to save the Jews and then bitterly wept when he could not save more, this is love. When a mother lifts a vehicle to save her child, this is love. When the mothers of the village in Liberia, whose sons and husbands had been murdered by years of civil wars, stood guard to enforce peace talks between enemies, leading to a truce, this is the power of love. When Jesus asked for forgiveness of his tormentors, this is love. When Harriet Tubman risked her life to free slaves escaping to the north, this is love. When Vanderbilt gave his life jacket away and then filled his place on the lifeboat outside the Titanic with as many children as he could, sealing his fate to drown and die an icy death, this is love. There are countless stories of love, the power of love conquering all. During my preparation for my administrator's license for education, I pursued study and experience with behavior and part of that was encouraged to read the book The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog by Dr. Bruce Perry. It's an incredible book, and I recommend it to anyone who would like insight on behavior, but it is a difficult read. To this day, I still haven't been able to finish it. Every story is heart-wrenching and seemingly worse than the one before it. Consider this a warning, and if you need to, close your ears for the next minute or so. In the title story, we meet a 6-year-old boy in a hospital who's the size of a large baby, shrieking in an iron cage and smearing feces around his face and throwing it around the room at frightened nurses. He'd literally been raised as a dog, but without affection, and as a result, his brain had actually not developed, even so far as to not develop motor coordination or communication skills. Story after story like this of children raised in severe traumas are recounted in this book. And yet repeatedly again and again, one thread emerges as the common solution: love. One fierce foster mom who'd managed to heal many severely impacted children shared her solution to the screaming, fighting, ballistic behavior. I just hold him and rock him. I just love him. He's my baby. They're all my babies. Hatred, shame, and criticism doesn't help anyone. But love is the most powerful force in the universe. I need to just make one short disclaimer here. If you are in an abusive situation, don't try to love your abuser into changing. Rather, love yourself into getting yourself into a safe place. Rock and hold yourself until you heal, and heal you will. However, our neighbors, our fellow citizens on the other side of the political aisle, those who have a different opinion of abortion or religion or guns, your judgment, your criticism, your animosity will not change them. But your love just might. The human heart has endured so much. So much. And yet it gives, it shines, it loves. I hope I've managed to give these 5 wonders of the world some of the spotlight on their significance and brilliance that they so deserve. As promised, I will now lay out my simple 5-point plan to save the world. First, more kelp farms. This will pull carbon out of the atmosphere, help stop the acidification of the ocean, provide a more stable marine ecosystem, and decrease the effect of severe storms on coastal communities. The kelp can then be used in a wider variety of products, increasing human and animal health, and can be used as more environmentally friendly fertilizer for farms. Which leads me to the second, sponsoring farms to transition to regenerative practices. Life in the soils of conventional farms is terribly diminished, being torn up by tilling machines and poisoned by heavy chemical use. It will take time to retrain farmers and ranchers on management techniques and rebuild the organic matter and biodiversity in the soil, but not that long. In most cases, even severely degraded land can be significantly improved within 3 years. This is a perfect time to begin. Rebuilding soil will make small farms more viable, since there will be reduced input costs and machine operation costs. It will mean healthier food, meaning less expense for veterinary costs as well as healthcare costs. It will also mean significant carbon sequestration. In fact, Dr. Elaine Ingham estimates that if all we did as a planet was transition to regenerative practices with our farming, we could contain all excess carbon in the atmosphere within just 3 years without changing any other thing. Third, we need to put our incredible minds to immediate use, coming up with alternative building and packaging materials that aren't so harmful to the environment. We don't need to chop down any more trees and send them off to China to build more apartment buildings. Let's keep our forests working for us, pumping out oxygen, providing us medicine, and keeping the atmosphere clean. Instead, let's invest in infrastructure to make quicker growing products like hemp, bamboo, fungi, and kelp to use. Did you know that the vast, open, emerald hillsides so iconic to Ireland today are actually vastly different than what it looked like 1,500 years ago? Rather, Ireland used to be covered in dense, old-growth forests, much like our Pacific Northwest. Trees were so important to the ancient Celts that they formed their entire alphabet around them. In the ways common to conquerors, the colonizers of pagan Ireland saw the reverence and importance of the trees to the culture and tore them all down to subjugate the people and destroy their spirit. If you are an Indigenous person today, this story is all too familiar and recent. If you're not, it's likely so far back in your past that you may not feel a connection to it anymore. But know that with or without your awareness, that connection is there. Let's stop subjugating ourselves and instead reclaim the connection we had so long ago. There's no limit to what we can accomplish when we want to. It just takes an initial investment of time and mental energy to see it come to reality. Fourth, I'm all for the land back movement. First Nations people stewarded these lands symbiotically for millennia, and they still do. Indigenous people have a connection to the land that most non-Indigenous people just can't fathom. Biodiversity and preservation of forest land is higher among land held by Indigenous people than anywhere else, and by a wide margin. It's time we, as descendants of colonizers, swallow our pride and acknowledge that we just don't really know what we are doing and hand the reins over to the people who do. We only have our lives to gain in exchange. And number 5 is to implement better water management practices. We should not be flushing perfectly good groundwater down the toilet, and we should absolutely not be squandering billions of gallons of groundwater per year per mine for the destructive and harmful lithium mining practices currently all the rage. Car batteries and solar panels made with lithium is not the answer. Already, even in Northwest Oregon, one of the wettest places in the country, wells are running dry and we lose thousands of precious acres of forest land every year. There are simple solutions. We can implement gray water systems that will water lawns and fruit trees for homes and properties while catching rainwater for home use. The cost would be far less than current municipal water systems and would create greater resilience in the face of drought and wildfire. Combined with better soil management practices, farms and personal properties would have all the water they need to thrive year-round due to the incredibly enhanced water retention capabilities. Most importantly, however, is to tune back into our hearts. As the Titanic sank with rich and poor victims drowning side by side, as the prisoners of war from different countries were contained together, as the mothers of the young men who'd taken the lives of their own boys stood in unity for peace in a war-torn country, we put our differences aside in the face of our threatened mortality. We find in these times when the world ends, that our differences don't matter. We rise above and we hold each other's hands, and we stand with courage facing the coming dawn. Why not do it now, before it's the end? Why not do it now and perhaps have a chance to save ourselves? However this ship goes down, know that I love you, whoever you are and whatever you believe in. I love you. I stand with you. Will you stand with me?